The first sensation wasn't pain, but an all-consuming cold. Not the usual morning chill of my pillow, but the deep, bone-aching cold of concrete and forgotten steel pressing against my cheek. My eyes snapped open, a dull ache throbbing behind them, and the world swam into focus. Not my bedroom ceiling, but a grimy, flickering halogen lamp overhead, illuminating a concrete box no larger than a coffin. A whimper, high-pitched and alien, escaped my throat. I tried to move, but my wrists were cinched tight with industrial-grade restraints, biting into flesh already raw and screaming for release. Then I saw it. A digital timer, crudely welded to a rusty pipe just inches from my face. Its glowing red digits a mockery of time itself. 00:09:58. Below it, a nest of thick, colored wires snaked into a device humming with dark energy, a sickly green light pulsing in rhythm with my accelerating heart. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and something metallic, something like fear. This wasn't a nightmare. This was real. Every fiber of my being screamed for escape. But there was no door, no window, just the cold, indifferent walls and the relentless march of the countdown. My mind raced, clawing through the fog. The meeting, the files, the face in the alley. It was all a blur, leading here. Someone put me here. Someone wants me to die, wants the information I carry to vanish with me. And the clock. It cares nothing for my pleas, my terror, or the life I was supposed to live. It just ticks. Each second a hammer blow, driving me closer to an unknown, violent end. Panic threatened to drown me, but a primal flicker ignited deep within. Survival. I wouldn't go down without a fight. Even if the fight was against nothing but time itself and the invisible hands that sealed me in this tomb. Months blurred into a suffocating haze. Each day a carbon copy of the last, imprinted with the static memory of Lena's laugh. My apartment, once a vibrant echo of her life, had become a mausoleum of my grief. Light choked by drawn blinds, air thick with the dust of forgotten time. On the screen, her final moments played endlessly, the ascent, the carefree smile, the breathtaking vista, then the impossible plunge. I watched her fall, again and again, a silent scream tearing at my insides, a phantom limb aching for a sister I could no longer reach. My purpose, my very existence, had evaporated with her, leaving behind only this looping reel of agony and the gnawing void where hope used to be. Every pixel, every crackle of audio, a relentless hammer blow to a soul already shattered. Then, amidst the familiar terror of the fall, a jolt, a sudden rupture in the fabric of my despair. It wasn't the wind, nor the distorted audio of a body hitting rock. It was a laugh, Lena's laugh, triumphant, knowing. It sliced through the drone of my grief, impossibly clear, after she had vanished from the frame. My breath caught, a cold spike of adrenaline tearing through the numbness. I slammed rewind, finger trembling, isolating the fraction of a second. There it was again, unmistakable. But this time, as the sound echoed, the screen glitched a subliminal flicker, a series of scrambled symbols overlaying the chaos, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. An impossible anomaly, a ghost in the machine, screaming that everything I thought I knew was a lie. The world outside ceased to exist. Only the screen mattered. I tore through the video file, frame by excruciating frame, a forensic archaeologist unearthing a buried truth. The glitch, a phantom. I enhanced, brightened, stabilized, pushing the ancient laptop to its screaming limits. Finally, there it was, a fragmented mosaic of numbers and letters, barely discernible, a string of partial GPS coordinates. Not random static, not an accident. This was deliberate. A message, a final, desperate whisper from Lena beyond the grave. Every digit I deciphered, every character I locked into place, felt like chiseling away at a mountain of lies. The impossible laugh, the hidden code, a breadcrumb trail laid by. A sister who knew she was walking into oblivion, a message meant only for me, meant to shatter my world all over again and save it. The coordinates led me to Lena's apartment, a place I hadn't set foot in since the funeral. I expected dust, echoes, the lingering scent of her life. Instead, a tomb, meticulously clean, clinical. Every surface gleamed, stripped of personality, devoid of any intimate trace of her. It was too perfect, too sterile, a chilling premonition of something sinister. This wasn't Lena's home. It was a stage set after the play had abruptly ended. My hands, guided by a frantic intuition and the partial coordinates burning in my mind, ran along walls, tapped on floorboards, searched for the telltale imperfection, the hidden seam. The silence in the room was a living thing, watching me, as I ripped through drawers, moved furniture, driven by the desperate hope that she'd left a failsafe, a final, tangible truth buried within these pristine walls. Leaving Lena's apartment building, the city's pulse felt different, heavier, charged with an unseen energy. My phone vibrated a single, untraceable text message, its stark white letters a punch to the gut. Some truths are better left buried. The words were a direct hit, a chilling confirmation that I was no longer just a grieving brother. I was seen. I was a target. My heart hammered against my ribs as I scanned the street, every shadow a potential threat, every passerby a possible adversary. The casual ebb and flow of urban life became a menacing dance of concealment. A dark sedan idling too long, a figure in a window across the street, a momentary glint of light on glass. The air thickened with a palpable paranoia, pressing down on me, whispering that I had crossed a line, and now unseen forces were closing in. Hidden behind a loose floorboard in Lena's study, I found it. A micro SD card, a flicker of hope in the rising tide of dread. Most of the files were encrypted, meticulously secured, speaking volumes about the professional nature of her work. But one file, innocuously titled Project X, contained a single image. It was Lena, not smiling, but serious, standing beside Elias Thorne, the enigmatic, impossibly wealthy CEO of Omnicorp, a tech behemoth whose influence stretched across continents. My research unearthed a labyrinth of shadows. Thorne, the visionary architect of tomorrow, was also a ruthless monopolist, notorious for crushing dissent. Lena wasn't just investigating some random project. She was investigating Thorne. And in doing so, she had stumbled into the heart of a corporate darkness far more vast and lethal than I could have imagined. A darkness that had consumed her, and was now reaching for me. Hours later, fueled by caffeine and a desperate tenacity, I cracked a small audio file on the SD card. Her voice, Lena's voice. It was a whisper, urgent and fragmented, like she was speaking into the wind, or under duress. Kai, if you're hearing this, it means I failed. My heart seized. She spoke of a failsafe, a contingency plan for her research. Her voice trembled as she mentioned a contact named Maya, someone who knew the full scope of Omnicorp's operations. The recording was punctuated by a rising background hum, then a sudden, violent static burst, cutting her off mid-sentence. The silence that followed was deafening, chilling. She wasn't just gone. She was silenced. And now, the baton of her dangerous truth had been passed to me, heavy with the weight of her final, desperate warning. Maya, Lena's former colleague, now living a ghost of a life in a cramped, anonymous apartment. Her eyes, wide and haunted, darted nervously around the room, confirming my worst fears even before I spoke. When I mentioned Lena's name, then Omnicorp, a mask of sheer terror settled on her face. It's too dangerous, she whispered, her voice barely audible, shaking her head vigorously. They're everywhere. They know everything. She was a prisoner of her fear, paralyzed by what she knew. But Lena's voice, her dying plea, fueled my desperation. I pushed, pleaded, painting a picture of my sister's sacrifice, of the truth Lena died to protect. Maya's facade cracked, a single tear tracing a path through the fear. Omnicorp doesn't just silence dissent, she choked out, her gaze finally meeting mine. They erase it, and anyone who helps. The words hung in the air, a cold, hard truth about the ruthless, pervasive power I was up against. The truth hit Kai with the force of a physical blow, colder and more sinister than any mountain wind. Maya's voice, hushed and urgent, painted a horrifying picture. Project Chimera, Omnicorp's insidious brainchild. Not just data harvesting, but biometric social control, twisting futures, predicting dissent, crushing individuality before it could even blossom. Lena hadn't been climbing for sport. She was scaling the walls of a corporate empire, gathering intel on Thorn, the architect of this dystopian nightmare. Every secret, every flicker of Lena's ghost, now coalesced into a terrifying clarity. Her death wasn't an accident. It was a desperate act of silencing, a desperate bid to protect the truth she held. A truth that now burned in Kai's hands, making him a target. Just as Maya finished, a sudden, brutal impact rattled the building. A black van, sleek and menacing, screeched to a halt outside. Omnicorp, they knew. The door splintered, tactical agents in black armor storming in, their weapons raised. No time for thought, only instinct. Kai grabbed Maya, shoving her through a back exit as gunfire erupted, tearing through the thin walls. The world exploded into chaos, the suffocating press of a crowded marketplace. The panicked cries of vendors, the sweet scent of spices mingling with the acrid stench of smoke. Kai lunged, dodged, pushing through the terrified throng, the relentless crack of gunfire echoing behind them, each shot a whisper of imminent death. They scrambled onto a rooftop, the city sprawling beneath them like a glittering, indifferent graveyard. A dead end. The agents swarmed the adjacent buildings, their laser sights painting crimson dots on the concrete around them. No escape. Below, a treacherous drop. Ahead, a dizzying chasm to another rooftop, too wide, too far. Jump! Maya yelled, her voice raw. Kai didn't hesitate. He launched himself into the void, a desperate prayer on his lips, Maya following an instant later. Air rushed past, the gap seemingly widening. His fingers scraped, found purchase, agony shooting up his arm as he hauled himself over. He landed hard, a sickening twist in his ankle, a sharp gasp of pain swallowed by the roar of the agents closing in. They were safe for now, but the injury was a cruel weight. Crouched in a grimy, forgotten corner of the city, Kai's throbbing ankle a constant reminder of their peril, Maya revealed the true depth of Lena's foresight. Her digital ghost protocol. A series of dead man switches, intricately woven into Omnicorp's own systems, designed to leak critical data if Lena went silent for too long. And the laugh? That impossible, defiant burst of joy Kai had heard? It wasn't a hallucination. It was the digital ghost's activation trigger, Lena's final, brilliant act of rebellion, designed to tell Kai not that she was gone, but that she had initiated the plan. A chilling, exhilarating revelation. His sister, a phantom in the machine, was still fighting, even from beyond the grave. With trembling hands, Kai watched as Lena's final message materialized on the screen. A pre-recorded video, her face clear, resolute, utterly alive. She spoke of her undercover operation, the years spent infiltrating Omnicorp, the horrifying scope of Project Chimera. And then the ultimate sacrifice, her staged death. It was a calculated, agonizing deception, a means to disappear, to become a ghost, ensuring the data could surface. She pointed them to a hidden server, buried deep within the city's forgotten infrastructure, the complete archive of Project Chimera. The raw, unvarnished truth that could bring Thorn's empire crashing down. A profound grief mixed with an electrifying surge of purpose. Lena wasn't just a memory. She was a mission. Miles away, in the gleaming citadel of Omnicorp, Thorn received the intel. A cold, calculating rage simmered beneath his impeccably calm exterior. Kai, a ghost he thought buried with his sister, was alive, and he held Lena's ghost protocol. The data. Thorn's jaw tightened, his eyes, usually devoid of emotion, now burned with a terrifying primal fury. His empire, built on lies and control, was teetering. With a chilling calm that belied his inner tempest, he issued the order. Find them. Citywide lockdown. No stone unturned. I want them before that data sees the light of day. The hunt was on, and the city itself would become Thorn's weapon. The inevitable arrived with brutal swiftness. The building shook, a cacophony of sirens, shattering glass, and heavy footsteps. Omnicorp had found them. Kai's heart hammered against his ribs, but there was no time for fear. He clutched a heavy pipe, Maya a makeshift shiv, as agents, relentless and heavily armed, stormed their safe house. The cramped corridors became a brutal arena of close-quarters combat. Every punch landed with sickening force, every parry a desperate gamble. They fought like cornered animals, outnumbered, outgunned, the air thick with the smell of ozone and fear. Each agent they took down was immediately replaced, a faceless tide threatening to engulf them. They were out of options. The agents were closing in, a relentless tide. Go! Get it out! Maya screamed, shoves the encrypted data drive into Kai's hand. Before he could protest, she ignited a small, improvised explosive, a blinding flash and deafening roar tearing through the corridor. It was a diversion, a final, desperate act of defiance. Bullets rained down, tearing into the space where Maya stood. Kai saw her, just for a moment, her eyes locking with his, a fierce, knowing resolve in her gaze, as she collapsed under a hail of gunfire. The explosion propelled him forward. Through a shattered window, the drive clutched tight. He scrambled away, the screams and sirens fading, the agonizing weight of her sacrifice burning a hole in his soul. He had to finish Lena's mission for Maya, for them all. The city was a blur of neon and rain, a labyrinth of concrete and shadow. But for Kai, it was just a gauntlet. His breath hitched, a raw gasp in the cold night air. Each step a punishing reminder of the wound blooming across his side. Omnicorp wasn't just chasing him. They were suffocating the city's digital arteries, trying to sever his every connection. The data drive, hot and heavy in his clenched fist, was Lena's voice, her final, defiant truth, and he would bleed out on these streets before he let them silence her again. Every flickering billboard, every distant siren, felt like a predatory gaze, a tightening noose. He wasn't running from them. He was running for her. A broken, desperate sprint against an invisible enemy that commanded the very light and shadow of the metropolis. He stumbled into the internet cafe, a forgotten relic of a bygone era, its fluorescent hum a stark contrast to the city's frantic pulse. Dust motes danced in the anemic light, an audience to his desperate gamble. As his trembling fingers plunged the data drive into the ancient port, the screen flared to life, a digital battleground. Omnicorp's firewalls were a fortress, an invisible legion swarming his every move, their code a snarling beast trying to devour Lena's truth. Sweat beaded on his brow, his heart a frantic drumbeat against his ribs as he typed, fingers a blur, each keystroke a defiant punch. He wasn't just uploading files. He was waging war, a lone soldier against an empire, the clock ticking, the connection flickering, threatening to sever at any moment, leaving him in digital darkness. Then a breath, a flicker of hope, a significant portion of the data, Lena's raw, unedited truth, breached the digital fortress, erupting onto the global network like a supernova. A triumphant, savage grin momentarily split Kai's exhausted face, a defiant roar against the unseen enemy. But Omnicorp was relentless. The screen fractured, lines of code dissolving into static, the connection violently severed. A sharp crackle, and the antiquated monitor died, plunging the cafe into deeper shadow. It wasn't everything, not the full, devastating narrative, but it was enough. Enough to sting, enough to plant seeds of doubt, enough to send tremors through the foundations of Thorn's empire. The war was far from over, but the first shot had been fired, and Kai, battered but unbowed, knew it. In his sterile, high-tech control room, Thorn watched the global news feeds erupt, each headline a dagger twisting in his gut. Snippets of his company's illicit dealings, hastily uploaded, undeniably incriminating, flashed across his panoramic screens. His perfectly curated world began to unravel, not with a bang, but with 1,000 whispered accusations echoed across every major network. The cold, calculating veneer he'd maintained for decades shattered, revealing not a titan, but a cornered animal, eyes wide with a desperate, primal fear. His hand, usually so steady, trembled as he gripped the edge of his desk, knuckles white. Lena's laugh, a phantom echo, seemed to mock him from the digital static, a haunting premonition of the Empire's impending fall. Weeks melted into a shadow of their former selves. Kai vanished, a ghost in the city's underbelly, honing himself, perfecting the intricate ballet of revenge. He tracked Thorn, like a predator scents its prey, to Omnicorp's gleaming, impenetrable HQ, a monument to power and corruption. Tonight, during a high-profile launch event, it would become Thorn's tomb. Lena's final, encrypted instructions, deciphered during his exile, guided his every move, whispering a path through the corporate labyrinth. This wasn't just about exposing Thorn. It was about tearing down the entire edifice, burning it to the ground with the truth. The air around the towering skyscraper thrummed with a nervous energy, an electric tension that mirrored Kai's own coiled anticipation. The true reckoning was finally at hand. The launch event was a glittering masquerade, a symphony of flashing cameras, champagne flutes, and power brokers. Kai moved through it all like a phantom, a whisper in the storm. Years of studying Omnicorp systems, every access point, every blind spot, every shift change had culminated in this precise moment. A holographic security badge, a subtly altered facial recognition scan, a calculated distraction, each a thread in the invisible web he spun around their defenses. The air thrummed with the low murmur of conversation and the clink of glasses, a deceptive lull beneath which Kai navigated layers of biometric and digital security. He was a silent anomaly amidst the opulent chaos, a dark current flowing towards its inevitable destination, inexorably drawing closer to the spider at the center of the web. The silence in Thorn's penthouse office was deafening, a stark contrast to the gala below. Kai stepped through the breached security, past the shattered remnants of an opulent display, into a realm of glass and cold steel. Monitors flickered across the walls, displaying the slow, agonizing collapse of Thorn's empire, a digital testament to Kai's success. And there, amidst the wreckage of his dominion, sat Thorn, calm, almost serene. A chilling smirk played on his lips, an unnerving recognition in his eyes, as if he'd been waiting for this confrontation all along. The air crackled with unspoken history, with the weight of Lena's ghost. A cat-and-mouse game, yes, but who was the hunter and who the prey? The true reckoning had begun not with a bang but with a terrifying, calculated stillness. Thorn's voice, a calm, venomous hiss, unspooled the full, horrific truth. Lena hadn't simply stumbled. She had been close, too close, to exposing his deepest secrets. He hadn't just silenced her. He'd captured her, tortured her, broken her in ways Kai couldn't fathom, recording her final, defiant moments. The accidental fall from the cliff? A meticulously staged spectacle, broadcast to him live, a final, cruel flourish. The laugh, Kai's phantom laugh, wasn't triumphant. It was Lena's final, contemptuous taunt, a last flicker of her unbreakable spirit, moments before Thorn himself, with his own hands, pushed her from the actual cliff into the churning abyss below. Kai's world imploded, the ground dissolving beneath him, the raw horror of the revelation ripping his soul to shreds. This wasn't justice. This was an abyss. Kai moved like a ghost forged in fire, propelled by a grief so raw it had become pure, lethal fuel. Thorn, sleek and predatory, met his furious assault with an unsettling calm, deflecting blows with practiced ease, each parry a cold, precise statement of his lethal training. The opulent penthouse became a brutal dance floor of shattered glass and splintered mahogany, a testament to Kai's desperate fury against Thorn's impenetrable defense. Every grunt, every impact, every swing was timed with the agonizing crawl of the upload bar on Lena's device, clutched tight in Kai's trembling hand. He fought not just for vengeance, but for Lena's voice, for her truth to finally scream across the digital abyss. The air crackled with kinetic energy and the silent hum of data racing against time, a silent prayer to the global network. He was losing, battered and bleeding, but he would not fall until her legacy was free. A desperate lunge, fueled by an almost supernatural surge of adrenaline, found its mark. Kai, a ragged silhouette against the city lights, shoved Thorn with the force of a man possessed, driving him backward into the immense, reinforced glass panel overlooking the abyss. The impact was deafening, a spiderweb of cracks blooming instantly before the entire structure imploded inwards with a terrifying shriek. Thorn, his composure finally broken, stumbled through the shower of crystalline shards. A guttural cry ripped from his throat as he clutched Lena's stolen data drive, a futile gesture. He spiraled outward, a dark, falling star against the glittering tapestry of the city below. His screams echoed, thin and terrible, for what felt like an eternity before being swallowed by the vast, indifferent night. Kai watched, chest heaving, his body a symphony of pain, utterly drained, yet profoundly, chillingly victorious. Then the world changed. Lena's truth, unfiltered and undeniable, exploded across every screen, every feed, every digital conduit. News anchors across the globe, their faces etched with shock, struggled to articulate the unfathomable conspiracy, the scale of Omnicorp's depravity. From Tokyo to New York, Paris to Patagonia, protests erupted like wildfire, a furious roar against the lies, demanding justice for the silenced. Omnicorp's stock, once an untouchable behemoth, began a dizzying, irreversible freefall, its empire crumbling under the weight of its monstrous secrets. In the heart of this global maelstrom, Kai, a phantom of the storm he had unleashed, slipped away. His work was done, the dam broken, the truth unleashed. He vanished into the surging currents of humanity, an unseen architect of revolution, leaving only the echo of his sister's fight. The chaos of the city faded, replaced by the hushed sanctity of a secluded forest glade, Lena's true resting place. Not a grand monument, but a small, unmarked mound beneath the dappled sunlight, exactly as she had wished. Kai knelt, his hands gently brushing the cool earth, the last vestiges of his rage giving way to a profound, aching peace. He placed a single vibrant wildflower, its petals mirroring the fleeting beauty of her life, and whispered her name, a simple, raw goodbye. For a moment the world held its breath. Then, carried on the gentle breeze rustling through the leaves, a faint, ethereal sound. Her laugh, triumphant, knowing, and impossibly lovingly close. Not a ghost, but an echo of her spirit, forever woven into the fabric of the wild, untamed world she loved, finally free. The air crackled with the aftermath of what I'd done, what I'd been forced to become. Blood, dust, and the acrid tang of burnt circuitry filled the cavernous chamber. He stood there, the architect of my torment, his face a mask of cold satisfaction, even as the walls around us groaned, threatening collapse. You fought well, he sneered, a glint of surprise in his eyes. But this was always the end. The information dies with you. My body screamed in protest, every muscle a throbbing knot of pain. But my grip on the shard of jagged metal I'd used to cut my way free was unyielding. You wanted a clean slate? I gasped, my voice raw. You just painted it red. The floor shuddered violently. He raised his weapon, a silent acknowledgment of the game's end. But I wasn't playing his game anymore. I launched myself forward, not with strategy, but with the pure, untamed fury of someone who'd stared into the abyss and refused to blink. The world dissolved into a maelstrom of concrete dust, shattering glass, and the guttural roar of a dying building. Our final collision wasn't about winning. It was about ensuring that if I went down, he was coming with me. A blinding flash, a concussive blast, and then silence. The kind of silence that swallows everything, leaving only echoes of what was, and the chilling unknown of what might never be.